Good morning, everybody. Ministers, permanent representatives, deputy representatives, members of the diplomatic corps, many distinguished guests, Professor Yunus, Distinguished Nobel Peace Prize winner, Meta Rosas from Pan American Health Organization, senior representatives of UNDP and other agencies gathered here today. And thank you for the opportunity to come to what is a very distinguished forum of ministers, of high-level government officials, academics and development practitioners for what we see at UNDP as a very important exchange of views on the social consequences of the current economic crisis and how countries in the Latin American and Caribbean region are responding to them. Can I also express our great appreciation to the government of Spain, which has supported this forum and previous fora also, organised with the Spain UNDP Trust Fund, entitled Towards an Integrated and Inclusive Development in Latin America. Spain is a very significant and valued partner for UNDP in this and many other respects. Today's forum clearly takes place in times of great global challenges. In very recent years, our world has witnessed so many crises, going back to food crisis, still ongoing, fuel crises, the global recession, and then a whole string of natural disasters, climatic and otherwise. And a natural catastrophe on the scale of the earthquake in Haiti leaves us all shocked and extremely concerned. The string of crises have had a negative impact not only on the financial and economic spheres, but of course they strain social systems and threaten to reverse social gains which have been hard won in many corners of the world. You have before you today the publication to be launched later on it being difficult to be young in Latin America. I've just come back from the Pacific where UNDP was behind the organisation of a conference on the human face of the global economic crisis there. We had a 17-year-old speak to us on behalf of Pacific youth, speaking of how in that region more parents are unemployed, more meals are being missed, children are being pulled out of school, and how frustrations, tensions and violence are increasing at home and within communities. And she urged the leaders of our conference on behalf of the young people to listen to the voices of the vulnerable. I think the speech she made could have been made by a young person from countries in the region in which we're focusing today. And the main point of her comment was, it is the poor and the most vulnerable who always feel the impact of crises most severely. Our research has shown that past economic crises have indeed left lasting effects on the most vulnerable people. A study of the longer-term impacts of the East Asia crisis at the start of this present century and shortly before concluded that around half the total count of Indonesia's poverty in 2002 was as a result of the 1998 crisis some 4 years before, even though macroeconomic recovery was well underway by then. Those effects remind us of how important it is to design and implement social protection schemes which are capable of looking after the most vulnerable in a time of crisis. Latin American and Caribbean region is one of those with some of the very largest programs of social protection. Of course, this region has not been spared from the global crises, and past programs may need to be adjusted to respond to the crisis if they haven't been already. For these reasons, a gathering like this Latin American Forum for Social Strategic Thinking is especially timely and relevant. After steady growth since 2002 and remarkable progress in this region in macroeconomic and social indicators, the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean forecast a decline of 1.8% in the GDP of the region for last year. We saw unemployment rates increase in practically all countries in the Latin American Caribbean region, and although it's expected that employment will pick up this year, the recovery is likely to be slow in that respect. Although the region is on track for reaching many of the Millennium Development Goals, a very big focus for us this year, the combined effects of the global crises do risk jeopardizing the recent progress. For example, after an impressive 6 years of falling poverty levels in the region, our estimates suggest a significant poverty increase in 2009, with more than 9 million more people expected to be living in poverty last year. That was basically equivalent to the total number of people who had been lifted out of poverty in the previous 2 years, so a slip back to the levels of 2 years before. When it comes to extreme poverty, the impacts of the crisis are even greater, as the food and the fuel crises had already reversed the region's falling trend in extreme poverty by 2008, meaning that in 2009 we had an estimated 5 million more people living in extreme poverty compared to the previous year.